Audio check here. Come on. Get everything set up. All right, audio check. Audio check. Outstanding. Ready. Let's see. Let's park that right there, baby. Okay, groovy. Good evening, folks. My name is Dave Reif. I'm a woodturner, and I started this channel to become a better demonstrator, a better presenter, a better educator, and I want to help you become a better turner, as well as become a better turner myself. I'm always open for advice, observations, opinions. Please, if you have any, put them in chat, and I'll answer them as I can get to them. But I started turning as therapy for PTSD. I find wood turning to be very relaxing most of the time when I'm not able to deal. I don't go towards the lathe because I don't want to put myself in danger because I'm not paying attention. So it's very meditative for me, and I found that I had a knack for it. I fell in love with it, and now I want to teach. I would like to be able to bring other people into the fold of wood turning as a therapy, even as a therapeutic pursuit, hobby, if you will, if you want. I intend to continue with this and hopefully, make a living. Anyway, it's been a great weather day. I did get 25 pounds of honey from my hives Thursday, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. I'll be back in the hives tomorrow. But today, we're talking wood turning. So, back to what we were working on last week. So here we have the finished box body. What we need to do now, and let's move the camera down. Hopefully I'm in a good position here. So we got the box body, we have the lid, we have the insert drawer that's going to go in there. That's ready to be turned. So we got the lid turned, and it sits how I want it to sit. There's just, let's see if I can put, yeah, there we go. So as we were discussing last week, I needed a way to hold on to this to be able to get a groove on the inside so that I could do an expansion with my chuck to be able to finish turning this. So I turned this bead. See if I can bring that closer. You know, one moment. Let's double check. There's dust on there. So this way, back to the bead here. So this way I could grab it with my Bic Mark chuck, large enough to do so, right in that groove. And any marks that would show, if there were any to show, I positioned the lid in such a way that where the jaws might come together and perhaps crease the wood, I lined it up with the grain that way, so that if it does show, and it does a little here and here, it will be, number one, not visible with the lid closed. And number two, if it is noticed, it's in line with the grain so that it looks like it is actually a feature. And that was the whole idea. Let me pull up chat here. Now, please feel free if you have any questions, any thoughts, put them in chat. Like I say, I'll get to them as soon as I can. What I'm doing now that I have got this turned, I'm ready now to finish finish the outside. Now I have some painter's tape here in the middle where I've already bored a hole for the tenon for my handle. And I don't really want to finish that just yet. In fact, let's think about this just for a second. Think about our schedule of events here, so to speak. So I know I've got to turn this. This is the insert drawer. So I got to turn it down to size so that it will fit inside both in diameter and height. And then add a handle to this. And the lid just needs a handle and to be finished. So I have some options for lid handle, and I'm not really sure, pardon me while I'm out of camera here, what I'm going to actually use. So I have some antler, and I thought that might be really cool. The issue with it is that most of it is not like a symmetrically round shape, but in this case, I think that's going to be okay because it will give me already have some shape to the antler if I use the antler, and I can accentuate the shape of the antler and then carve it into a handle on the lathe. Or I could use this piece of lumber, and if I recall, this is lignum vitae, and I really do like the match of this, at least when this is polished up. It's kind of a darker yellow, sometimes a little orange, compared to the honey locust, which is a lot of yellow and sometimes orange and a little bit of brown. I thought that would be a good match. But I'm also seriously considering using antler just to have that that difference, that thing that sets it off. So this would be a white or a white-ish handle that would accentuate not only the yellow here and stand out, but you would clearly see that it is a handle. Of course, this will clearly look like a handle too, but I kind of looking for a little something extra, you know? So let's see. I need to turn. So you know what? I'll turn a piece of antler first and see how that's going to work with this. I want to hold it up close, and I don't know which piece I'm going to use. Probably this one. I need a fairly straight piece of antler, which is sometimes difficult to find. But I cut these off today of the limited supply of antlers that I have. So that, and the reason for that is that so I can grip it properly with my pin jaws. But I can still use an oblong piece for something similar if I can get it in the jaws fairly straight. And I think I can do that. In fact, yeah, I think I can do that with this guy. We'll see. I may have to come back to here to get rid of this piece. If I can get that straight into my pin jaws, that will allow me to get a rounded edge on the flat here. And then we'll figure out how we want to finish off the handle if I use that piece. I could use this piece and then carve this away or cut this off. And that would be kind of a unique handle, and that would fit in the pin jaws okay. Really what I mostly need to do is the antler handle is cut a tenon to fit inside the lid, the tenon here. The base is, of course, got to be a little concave. It could be a little flat even, because the base down here I turned a little concave. So really I just need to turn a tenon and then do something with the rest of it, perhaps round the end. In this case, if I were to use this, I would just round the ends off, and I would do that with my Dremel, this piece with my Dremel. Burning bone smells lovely. So I'm going to turn this piece first and see what we come up with. Let me set the box aside, the lid aside. I'm going to change out my chuck here for my pin jaws. Now, I don't get any sponsorship funds or anything like that for talking about the tools that I use. I'm open to discussing sponsorship programs, but at this point, I'm just explaining the tools that I use. And this is a chuck from PSI Woodworking. It's a Barracuda CSC 3000C. When I bought this last, it was $135, came with 4 sets of jaws, 1 screw, and then, of course, the tool. And then the Allen wrench to change out the jaws. When I bought it the first time, I actually have 2. And I did that because, one, it was a fairly inexpensive chuck that could still hold the way I wanted it to hold. It wasn't super cheap and would fall apart or rattle apart while it was turning. So I bought a second one. And the second one, like I said, I paid about $135 for. The first one I paid $100 for the set. There was about a year difference in there, so I don't know what they go for, but it's a PSI Woodworking. It's a decent chuck. It is on the more inexpensive side, but it's not like super cheaply made. So it's a decent chuck to work with. And the fact that the price point lets me have more than one, which is always a decision that's hard to make, because you can allow woodworking or wood turning to become very, very expensive if you choose to, with all the gadgets and groovy stuff that turners come up with. And there's a lot out there, a lot to explore. And that's what is one of the things that I like to do, is explore and touch on everything that I can touch. I want to be the best wood turner I can be. And I want to help others do the same. So looking down here at these chucks, I got a second one just so I can keep 2 different sets of jaws on the same chuck. body, and then I can swap them out real fast. So if I need to do, say on this one, I'll do the lid, right? Well, this one I need to do the antler, and I don't have to spend the time at this point anyway to swap these jaws out on this chuck because I got them right there. It would be nice to have more than one Vicmar chuck, because that's a really doggone good chuck too. Although it's very spendy. I paid a little over $400 for the Vicmar chuck that I have. I think it is the 150, but let's take a look. If it's on here, it is. Oh, sorry, this is the Vicmar 120. I got the insert for the 1-inch spindle that's on my jet here, but I think they normally come with 1.25 inches thread, which will work great when at some point when I have a larger lathe than what I have that has a larger spindle on it. Right now I just have a 1-inch spindle. It is a very solid and weighty chuck. I will be clear in saying that it's possible that I'm pushing the limits a little bit of the bearing, but maybe not a whole lot, probably not even at all, but it's a heavier chuck than what these other chucks are that I'm using. So I'm always trying to be aware of any suspicious wear and tear just in case. And it's always very important to make sure you maintain your tools, your equipment. Boy, that might be really cool. Let's see if I can get it anymore. If I just use that, will that be centered enough? I don't know. I'm going to turn this on slow real quick. I just want to take a pause and see how that looks to me. Actually, I think that'll probably be okay, because I'm going to turn this stuff away anyway and make the tenon right down here, I think. And I treat a chuck just like I do a drill press. On a drill press, there's 3 or 4 slots to put your key in and turn, and I will spin the chuck and get every single one of them, tighten all down to what feels like the same, because I know that equipment pieces can move and travel and vibrate, and if I leave one loose, that is the one, at least in my mind, that might vibrate loose faster or cause the other ones to vibrate into that space that the loose one is occupying. Okay, so I think we got a good hold here. Let's go with this guy. And I want to double check my height. I'm going to be using actually a spindle gouge on this guy. So I want my cut to end at the center point of the chuck. That's how I like to get my spindle gouges set. So my handle is parallel with the ways of the bed, and the cutting edge where I'm going to be cutting is sitting on center. So I need to bring this up just a touch. Too much. But hey, micro adjustments are awesome with this Lyle Jameson tool rest. Okay. Again, I do not get any promotional fees for mentioning the names of the products that I use. I'm open to sponsorships. Thank you. Okay, safety glasses will be going on here in a second. Whoops, on that thing. Make sure my air compressor is turned off at the moment. So we're clearing the tool rest, which is good. How do I want to do this? I guess I'm going to have to cut all that away. You know, I'm going to go ahead and grab my bone saw. And just cut this piece loose, because that is a straight 1 inch, and I might be able to turn that into, well, it might be the handle on the drawer, who knows. So instead of turning it away and wasting it, I'm going to cut it off. And I'm going to cut it off like this, so that that is parallel to this. Now, I do not have a bandsaw, and most of that is, for one, I don't really have a whole lot of use for it in my mind, but I don't have space in the shop, and it's an expense that I can put towards replacing turning tools or upgrading equipment. Stuff like that. All right, so I'm going to save that for later. I'll set that right here. Since I just cut bone, I do use bone to do inlays. So I like to save all the bone dust that I get from doing stuff like this, or sanding if I do that. And I'm picking out some darker spots, and maybe some darker spots from the outer sheath of the antler. And then I'm going to collect and put it in my container. So I got that for later. Okay, back to the handle. So let's see how I can grab this now. Will that be okay? So because it's not super straight, I'm just trying to do some little finagling here to get it as straight as I can in the chuck. I guess that's going to be it. So that's a good center line. That's a fair center line, but it looks like that's the best I'm going to be able to do. Let's give it a quick spin. Actually, that's not too terrible. I am only gripping it with 2 of the jaws, but this is not too terrible. In fact, yeah, okay. So let's go around here and make sure that we're secure. Safety first. We don't want things flopping out, flopping around, popping out. I feel like that's pretty secure. Maybe that's not that much of an angle. Maybe I'll start with this and see how this goes. All right, so this clearly comes out. Oh, and it's only about, oh gosh, I don't know, a thin 1/16 of an inch out from this side. So I'm not really going to be removing a whole lot more on one side than the other, which makes me happy. It's not round, so tightening will, oh yes, thank you. Hammer Grip says it's not round, so tightening will just be on 2 points, which is, this is I explained. I've only got it held in 2 jaws. It's a small piece of antler, and I feel pretty confident that it's going to stay where it's at, and I'm not taking super heavy cuts on this either. Antler is also a bone. Antler is also a fairly dense medium to turn through, so it actually turns fairly nicely. So, and thank you, Hammer Griffs, for showing up tonight. Very, very cool. Appreciate it. Speed up the lathe a bit here. Yeah, that looks good to me. Get my handle out of the way. So it won't really take much to round this out. I'm kind of looking sort of for a bit of a teardrop shape on the bottom. Let's see how we're doing here. Okay. Not bad. It would be a tad bit offset. Let me grab the lid here. Be a tad bit offset, but I think that might look pretty cool. In which case, I can finish this whole thing, and the only glue I need to apply, or adhesive, whatever, is right inside for the tenon. So that might be cool too. And this is just the first piece of antler I'm starting with. I may not like it in the end. We'll see. But always sharpen your tools. If you notice, I'm also always setting my anchor first, getting my bevel pointed in the direction that I want it to travel before I start my cut. ABCs. So as I'm using this spindle gouge, I'm really only using thumb pressure to push the tool. The way that I'm actually using the tool and helping it go around the curve is I got to swing the handle a little bit, but I also start my cut or set myself up. Let me turn off the lathe. I set myself up where I'm at parallel with the ways of the bed. So that would be the end of my cut where the tool is sitting now. So this would be a closer view. The flute is almost entirely closed. So I set that tool, and then I set my thumb right on top down here at the handle. So when I start my cut, though, the tool is almost all the way open, and I'm starting. Let me grab my pencil. And you can still see some of the bone residue if this thing will focus properly. There's a little bit of bone residue right in there. This is the area that I'm cutting in on the tool. Is just this bit of the tip. So I want that to make contact, and then when I get my cut started, I can push with my thumb and then just lift the handle. And if you watch, let's put this down here. So I would start like basically down in this position. So my thumb is off to the side. It's kind of uncomfortable to hold it that way. But as I lift the handle and relax my hand goes back to what would be a neutral, comfortable position. So that's how I set myself up. I set myself up to where my comfortable position is going to be my end point in this cut. And I go to my uncomfortable position, get everything set, handles down low. I want to start cutting right up in here. It'd be hard to see with this white on white light background and all that. I don't know that I have, let's try try this guy. We'll put that underneath. And I do use an RZ mask. Again, I do not get any promotional fees or anything for stating the tools that I have at this point. I'm open to that proposition, but I do use an RZ mask. It's kind of more or less similar. Well, it's similar in a lot of ways to the chem masks that I wore in the military, at least as far as the breather ports. And these are very, very, very comfortable to wear. Sorry, I need to put that back. Let's see if we can get, if I move that there, you might be able to see. This is as close as I can get with the camera. So you might be able to see how I start my cut, but you'll see, actually, you can even see on the outside of the tool where the bone dust is coming over the outside. So I'm getting right up in this tip of this tool. Okay, see, now I can see that my tool rest is a little low, so I'm going to raise it up. I want to have the easiest cut I can have. I don't want to have to fight anything. Make sure my tool rest is secure. So I got my anchor now. My bevel's pointed in the direction that I want to go. If you can see that, I'm not sure, but I'm making contact and just starting a cut. So as I push around and I got to swing the handle a little bit, but I'm also lifting it. And that lifting action and relaxing my hand lets the tool come right back into my comfortable position, and I can get a much cleaner cut that way. I'm not trying to put myself in weird positions the whole time. I think that might be pretty cool. And if I do a little bit more rounding up here, that might be all right. So let's just do a little bit of a scrape here, just to clean up. So let me go over a scrape while I'm at it. That's what this channel is all about. In this case, I don't have the flute almost all the way closed, but that is necessary because of the burr that I put on this earlier. But you can see where the bone dust is coming right over the top, and I am scraping on this bottom wing, not on the top. I don't want the top to make contact, because if it does, the speed of the lathe, it'll dig into the antler and it'll take the tool away. And that's actually some very fine bone dust, so I'm going to save that. And my scrape looks mighty fine. So I have the handle almost parallel with the bed, the ways of the bed. And I'm scraping at the bottom wing here with the flute almost all the way closed. I've got to swing the handle, and I'm only scraping in the front half, not back here by the wing, but in the front half of the tool. And that goes for any gouge that you're working with. That's how you want to scrape. It's the safest way to do it. All right, so we've got that shape started, and I like it. So I think I'm going to make a little bit of a round lozenge shape. I'll get that out. And you can see the shavings that actually still come off the even antler with the properly sharpened tools. This is what you should be pulling off. Should be pulling off shavings. So let's back this guy out a little bit further. I may need to move this. Let's open that up. Should I do, let's see, I could do a round one or I could do an oval. How will that look? It doesn't need to be that tall. So I may cut it off here. Well, let's go a little bit further and see what it looks like when we get to that lozenge shape. Now this is going to be kind of tricky because the way the antler is bent, I've got to really, really be careful on how I'm grabbing this with the chuck. Again, I usually shoot for the straightest pieces I can use, but this had such a unique shape. I thought it's quite possible I might be able to deal with it. So far, we're doing okay. Just want to make sure it's not going to come out and that it's going to be stable while I'm turning it. And I may not even use this, but it's worth the exploration. So now I need to be all right, that's pretty secure. Now here, I'm not really concerned with, okay, let's look at the back. The back comes to this far out. The front is 3/16 of an inch away. But these are not the sides that I want to turn. What I want to turn is these sides to put in a curve in there. I want this to stay flat. Another reason why I have it in the chuck the way that I do. And that is pretty secure. So if I do a circle, that might be cool. You know, though, I think I'm going to do a lozenge shape. I think I like that idea. Okay, similar action, just different hands. Let me get my toothbrush. I keep a toothbrush handy. Old used toothbrushes, they're great for applying India ink on the outside or inside of a piece or finish or paint or whatever. But I keep a fairly clean one to keep my flutes clean and try to clean off anything that's sticking to the tool itself, because I want to be able to see where the material comes over the tool. That helps me determine what position I need to put the tool in or push it to or keep it in. But here again, my cut is going to end parallel with the ways of the bed. So I've got the tool parallel, I've got the flute in the position that it's going to be at the end of the cut, and my thumb is on top. I have to start with the handle low. You see, I have to rotate my hand into an uncomfortable position so I can get the tool into the right position to start with. And here, as before, although I was doing it on this side, I will be cutting on the lower wing here, but I want to start way up in the tip. And I have heard several people over the years state that lathe turners are naturally ambidextrous. And I got to tell you, that's not the case, but it can be learned. I think it's very, at least for me anyway, and part of it is because I'm kind of strange. I guess when I was a kid, I got run over by a car and fractured my elbow. And part of anyway, I fractured my elbow. So I had to wear a splint and a cast for 6 weeks, my right hand. And I was predominantly right-handed at the time. So I wound up having to do as much as I could with my left. I learned how to write, although it looks like a 6th grade level at this point, but at least I can write with my left hand. But I tried, and I still always practice being able to switch hands, switch directions with the tool, so that the hands will do the opposite of what they were doing before. I think becoming ambidextrous on the lathe is very, very, very helpful because you don't, sometimes there's odd positions you can find yourself in if you're only using one direction of the tool. And this helps not only solve that problem, but also it lets you use both sides of the tool. And it's, I don't know, it's just great practice. So back to turning. I don't know. Let's see. Let's try that again. It's a little bit darker. How does that show up? Not great. If I had something that didn't have that logo on there. I don't, but I do have this. Let's try this handy dandy nitrile glove and see if that maybe will give enough of a background demarcation that you can see what's going on here. So I think I'm going to carve into it right here. And then I'll work from there. We'll see what happens. I may even carve it. I may even carve this with a Dremel, but let's double check this. I think I'm still just a 1/16 of an inch out. Ooh, man, I'm right on. Oh, nope, sorry. So yeah, that's a 1/16 of an inch out. So I'm not really concerned about the fact that there's going to be a little bit more material taken off this side than there will be this side. Here you can see the curve travels around further on this side, but that's because this is a little fatter. On this side, there's more material here. Same thing's going to happen here, but that's okay because it's going to give it that unique shape. So as it's spinning, you can see that it kind of tapers down already. I think you can see that on camera where it tapers from here down to here. So I want my lozenge shape somewhere in this neighborhood. My anchor, got my bevel set, finding where it's going to cut. There it is. Push with my thumb. That's all the pressure I need, and just slowly raise the handle. And that will give me my rounded shape. Now I got to swap hands because I cannot do this. I guess I could do a pull cut this way, but for me it makes more sense to be able just to pick up here, get my anchor, my bevel set, and keep working this cove down. There's my cut. There's the handle. A little bit more off. You can see down here on the glove. I'll just bring it up. This is awesome. This is just the sharp tools. That's all shavings. They're very, very tiny, but they're shavings. I don't want to bring off a lot of dust with a dull tool. That's kind of looking kind of interesting, actually. So I don't want to have a lot of dust floating around in the air. Shavings it shows that it's a clean cut and a sharp tool, and the shavings will just fall down instead of floating around in the air. There is a little bit of dust being generated, but it's not anything that I can't deal with right now. If I do any sanding, of course, I will put a mask on, but there's really no dust floating in the air at this point. How do I want to do this? I think I will make it a little bit, yeah, okay. So I'm going to keep working at it. This may wind up being a sphere on the headstock side, possibly. My bevel started, there's my cut. Really only pushing with my thumb. My hand's kind of resting on the tool rest to give myself some registration. I don't really need it. I could do it this way, but it's a very small, very fine cut. So I just give myself a little bit more stability and giving myself every chance to succeed. All right, so let's clean that out. I should have moved the glove back. That might have been helpful. Okay. That's still kind of interesting. I think this is going to be round. This is going to be oval. This bit's going to be round, and then I'll finish the handle further up. I think I like that idea. Well, then we'll take a look at it. Before I do, though, let's take off this piece of tape. I believe this was a 1/4 inch tenon. So that would fit in there like that. I need to cut some of it off, but that would fit in there like that. I think I like it. Let's keep going. I can make a little button handle for the inside drawer. I'm liking this. This is cool. Okay, I've got to round this off a little bit more. But here, as you can see, this is what I'm talking about. I'm taking off more material. This V cut is deeper, or appears to be deeper than this V cut, because there's just more material on this side. I may put a bead on there. Let's see what happens with a little bit of scraping action here. It's a little hard to see. I'm looking at the ghost and my head is probably in the way, so sorry about that. I think I'm actually going to put a bead there too, so let's take a look. That's looking pretty good to me. I like that. I'm going to leave that as a bead. So I'm going to grab my 40-degree gouge. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to grab my 50-degree detail gouge. And a detail gouge, let's get the comparison going here. So the tool steel is the same size. And in America, we would call this a 3/8. Oh, sorry. We would call this it is 3/8 gouge. In Europe, they measure the flute itself. So this would be a 5/16. Or, well, I guess they would go by millimeters, wouldn't they? So this would be a 8mm gouge. The difference between a detail gouge and a regular spindle gouge is the thickness of the tool. A detail gouge doesn't need to have a whole lot of meat to it because you're just doing finer detail cuts with it. So it's a narrower profile that lets you get a little bit further in than you could with the regular spindle gouge. The spindle gouge itself has a thicker profile. There's more meat here underneath the flute, and it's meant for more aggressive cuts, cuts where you need to take a little bit more material off than you would with, say, a detail gouge. So I am going to finish off this bead in here. And my detail gouge will let me get right up on it. All right. So now there's a bead right in between this lozenge piece and then the circular piece that I'm going to make, or the circle that I'm going to make in there, spherical shape. Let us get this set to fit into the lid really fast. I'm going to adjust the height of the tenon. if I use this piece, that means that I can go ahead and chuck this up and finish the whole piece without getting the handle on first. If I'm going to use a wood handle or something that's going to cover this whole area here, then I got to get the handle on first before I finish all of this, because I don't want any finish down in here where I'm going to apply my adhesive. It's not far enough away, Dave. There we go. All right, so this may still be a little bit wide. Let's put that piece of tape there. I'm going to break out my sharpened parting tool. And we're going to size that tin up. We're not sizing that now. We need to put that back in. And I can do that right here. Where is that marking? There it is. So that should put me right in the correct spot. Let's see how that runs. Nope, it's going to be a little bit out. How about that? So that means I have to take that down. Like that. Now I'm way out. Nope, wrong direction. Down is the other way, Dave. Ha ha ha. A lot closer, but I'm still. Let's take this. This is the tricky part about having to recenter stuff, is you got to find it. The first time or you have to fiddle with it once you take it out of center. I really should have done this before. Okay, just a little bit down before I moved it, but I did not. That's okay though. I will fiddle with it a little bit till we get it back to center so I can size that tenon properly. Oh, wrong way. Hopefully I can get there. Let's try that. Looking at the bed. Okay, so that's got to go down just a touch. Bear with me while I talk myself through this. Oh, we are so very close. So that's got to go down just a bit. I tend to do this just to keep her, I don't know, I guess I have a running monologue with myself often, but it also helps keep the focus. All right, so that's a little tall. And hey, you get to see this live. This happens to every turner. Nobody gets to see it on the videos because, well, for one, it's a pain he has to deal with, but for two, it sometimes takes a while to get it right where you need it. So you're getting to see it actually live. Man, I'm so close. So close. Just making little micro adjustments to try to. All right, I'm going to move this guy out of the way. It's kind of getting in the way. All right. So that needs to come out this way. Let's see if I can handle that. Let's try it down here. Okay, so we're a little closer. Let's go down a touch this way. So that does for me. That took me further out, so we'll go back. A little that way. Whoops, too far. Maybe. I don't know. Let's find out. Okay, that is, man, that is a thin 1/16 of an inch. So I'm going to try to move it just a bit more because I don't want to fundamentally change the shape of my tenon there. Ooh, that was just a click. Let's see if that did it. I don't want to fundamentally change the shape of this because now it will change the way that the handle sits on the lid. Oop, what happened there? Yep, that took it further out. All right, I went the wrong direction. So now I need to bring this back and we'll check the other side. That one. So I'm trying not to move the bottom part that's touching that jaw on the bottom. I'm only trying to move this guy. You know what? Let's do it with this so we can see better. Okay, so that's 1/8 of an inch that I've got to make up for. And that is in that direction. So I'm going to go back to my high spot. There we are. So this has to move down a bit. Let's try to make that happen. I tilting it up a little bit. If it will let me. I may need to travel further down the... How's that look? Oh, dude, I think we're there. I think that did it. Maybe not. Maybe there's a... Nope. All right, so I'm going to move it a little bit down. Sorry about this, folks. But again, it's a hazard. It is what it is. It does happen to everybody. That's why I try to plan and make sure I do everything before I change my center. That might be a lot closer. All right, so that's got to go down. How? Maybe come out to here. Push it back a bit. So that should have gone down, and it did not. All right. Let's try it that way. Nope, I don't think that did it either. Nope. All right, so if I hook it here, so I just got to come this way. Nope, get back up on that spot. Is that my high spot? Yep. All right, just a little bit more, 1/16 of an inch this way. And that should have it, I hope. Come on. Come on. I think I put it right back to where it was at. Let's find out. Nope, I did move it. Just the wrong direction. Now, I'm not really putting a whole lot of pressure on the jaws per se on the antler because I don't want to mark up the surface all that much. So that's my high spot. So that means I need to travel this way. So I've got to get up on that right there, which means then I got to turn this a little bit. And let's see what we got. So now I just got to go that way. In theory. Come on. Not that far. That's not going to be centered either. Definitely not centered. So this would be my high spot again. So I need to get up on that bit of antler. And I won't be making heavy cuts on this either. All I just need to do is just shave a little bit off of the tenon, which I should have done earlier and did not. Yep, that's not it either. Well, I may have to just start this all over unless I can get this. Come on, come on. In the right spot. Which is just being difficult right now. So I need to bring that down this way. If it will allow me to do that. Nope, that's not it. All right, I'm not going to fiddle around with this too much more. If it gets to the point that I can't, and I don't know that I can get it, then I will give up and save it for another day. It's still way out. That's too much. Come on. Nope, stay where you were at. All right, I'm going to give it 10 more seconds. And if I can't get it, then I will move on because this is, like I say, fiddling with this stuff can be kind of a pain some days. And it's my own fault. Yeah, I won't be able to get it into that position. That's mighty close, but I just can't get it because of the shape of the antler. I can't get it. Ooh, that might have done it. All right, I'm on the trail again. Because I think I may have it. Nope, I don't. Yeah, I don't have it. All right, so we're moving on to the, did I just accidentally do it? I think that was really close. I'm going to go with that. So we're going to go with that. I may have accidentally stumbled on it here. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, that's really, really, really close. That I can deal with. I can handle that. All right, so first things first, I'm going to straighten off the end of it because it had an angle and I want it to sit flat in the bottom of the well for this. I don't like that. We'll do it this way. Need to change the spindle gouge so I could actually cut instead of scrape away the outside of this because I don't want to give too much vibration to the piece of antler and cause it to move. All right, so I just got to come down a little bit more in diameter for that tenon. And I'm using the wing of the tool like a skew. In that my cutting edge, just like a skew, is actually right floating right on the surface of what I'm cutting, and the cutting edge itself is at 45 degrees. So it's in the same or very similar position as a skew would be if I was using a skew. Let's check that. Needs to go a little bit shorter. And I think I will just do that with my spindle gouge. Not that guy, this guy. So I know my cut is going to end there. I got my thumb right on top. Got my anchor. My bevel is now set in the direction I want to turn. So I just got to slowly push with my thumb and then slowly lift the handle with my right hand. And that'll give me a clean cut. So that just about sits how I want it to. I'm going to have to clean this bit up a little bit. Give myself a bit of an angle here. Make sure everything's going to clear. Yes. Give myself just the ever so much of a flat platform right on the curve, right where the curve meets the tenon. I want it a little bit flat there. Let's check that out. Okay, so now I've got the flat, but the tenon's a little long, but that's because I took off some material to make the flat. Let's clean this up. Get myself into good position. Got my anchor set now. Bevel is set in the direction I want to cut. Just going to slowly push with my thumb as it makes the cut. I pushed a little too fast, so I caught the upper part of the wing. Got a bit of a catch there, or skate rather, not a catch. But since it's on the tenon, it's not a terrible thing. And having a little bit of a skate mark will actually hold on to the glue better. So I think now I'm starting to wonder, do I want to put, no, I think that's fine. I think I can go with that. Let's look at the way all the way around. What I'm looking at is, and you can't see that on the camera, unfortunately, but I'm looking at how this shoulder sits right here. And I want it to make contact all the way around. I don't need to spin the top of the box. I just need to spin the finial. You know, I'm liking that. Looks good. It's not wallowed out. So we're going to call that good. Now we will carry on. I'm going to clean that up just a touch. Now, let's see how that looks. I don't like it, but let me get a little more light in here. Yeah, that's looking good. All right, so I'm going to bring this back out again. We're going to get it centered again, and we're going to turn that round shape right into the antler there. Now, I'm not really concerned whether this is centered. I want this piece to be in the center of the rotation. This I could care less about. So it's all right that the antler is not straight. I just need to get it into a position where I can turn that. And the major mass of this, where I'm turning that spherical shape, that button, will be in the center of the rotation. See how that looks. Let's put that against the tool rest and take a look that way. So here I've got that. So they're very, very close together here. That's okay, because I'm going to have to move it over this way a little bit. I want this to be centered. So I'm going to tilt it a little bit that way. Touch on that. It touches on that. All right, I'm a little bit wide there, but that is part of the antler. So this is where I want it, right there, right there. Okay, I think that looks good. Here, it doesn't matter if the front to back isn't in the center, because I'm only cutting here the taper, cutting that into a round shape. In theory. All right. And in the end here, I may have to cut off the tip of the antler to get my centering in here the way I want it. So that's too high. Want it down low. That's too far that way. Let's try that. You know, that's looking a little bit better. Let's put this glove underneath again to give ourselves a little bit better contrast. I don't need this tool at the moment, so that should get put away. I think I'm where I want to be. Yep, I think I am. Yeah, it looks good to me. All right. So I'm going to turn that round. There we go. Make sure it's secure. I don't need a super tight grip, but it needs to be a secure one. Now I got to get right up in here. Make sure everything's going to clear. And here we go. Oh, we need to speed the lathe up some. Down into that bead. Finish my sphere. My bevel set. There's my cut. I want a slightly smaller profile because I'm getting close to the jaws here. Now I can finish this guy. Now I can move it back out and I can finish that round shape. Round-ish, let's put it that way. I just want there to be some change in shape beyond what the natural shape of the antler is. Give myself a wee bit more room to play. No, dude, there you go. Nope. Am I there? I am not there. So this has to go down. Let's try it there. Closer. So I need to come that way. Nope, that's not right either. That is way too far. Let's try that again. You know, I could do it this way. Hey, that might make some sense, hey? Just got to pay attention to my tail here. All right, let's see what that looks like. Man, it's looking pretty good. Let's so I need to tilt it this way. It's going to clear. Whoops. All right, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. Let's put it down here. See if we can grab it there. Just got to fiddle with it until we get it into the right position. That is not going to work, but that might. Nope, that's not going to work. So I need to bring this forward. That's closer. Need to bring this way. If I can. That's closer. Doggone. All right. Getting closer. Let's try that. Nope, wrong direction. Let's try that. Better. Try that. Better. So apparently I'm going the right direction. Just need to get it far enough. Let's move the tool rest so that clears. And the chuck clears too. So now I need to go this way. Let's see if that did anything for me. Nope. Well, let's see. How about we try... Let's just try this. So I'm sticking my skew in between. That's interesting. I'm watching the video here. Now I see nothing but ghost. But watching the video, you can actually see it turn around. That's kind of cool. So I'm sticking the blade of my skew here flat. And I'm just going to kind of inch it just a little bit at a time to find that hopefully sweet spot without bringing it out of the chuck. That was a little closer. I think I just need to go, I don't know, let's see. Tighten that up some. Nope, that was the wrong direction. That was a little bit better direction. Better again. Oh, I probably went the wrong way there. Come on now. See if that did it. Oh man, I got like a 1/16 of an inch to go, and I think we'll be there. Or do I? Oh, just a bit. Let's try that. That looked like the right move. Let's try that again. One more time. I'm sneaking up on it. I'm getting closer. Try that. A little bit more. Okay. I guess you could say this is a hazard of turning antler. I want it on that flat. don't want it on that flat. I want it on this one. Okay, so I just totally took it out of center, but I think I needed to move off of a high point on this side. Put it back there. No. Open up. There we go. That's nowhere near. That might do it. I'm not sure. Maybe. So you got to go down. All right, I'm at the point of just about giving up on this piece of antler and saving it for another day. I may have to hand carve it. Hey, that's just, I'm getting so very close that it's hard to give up. That took me too far out, so we'll go back this way. Oh man, that's so close. All right, I'm gonna go with that. I just want to get I want to see how this piece turns out, and that is really, really close. That's another thing that I have learned over the years. Sometimes you have to know when to stop turning a piece, when to stop messing with a piece of lumber, when to just move on. All right, don't need the skew. All right, let's finish this off. Not too high, no. And then I'll make this a rounded shape. Let's take a look at that. All right, I can clean that up a bit. I use the detail gouge for that guy. And all I'm doing is just swapping hands. The movements are the same. Just in reverse compared to right to left or left to right. You know, that looks kind of neat. I'm staying with that. I still got to clean a little bit of that up. See if that got me. Almost. Now, I understand that this is probably kind of similar to turning like Banksia pods. They seem to be a little hard. It's also, there's a couple of nuts and even ivory. There's a nut that's kind of like ivory that people turn. This is very similar. It's just antler. It's just bone. All right, I'm going to take just a wee bit of abrasive to that while I try not to drop my tools on the floor. Get that a bit spruced up. Slow my lathe down. Take care of that by hand. So basically, I'm giving myself some options here. I'll probably throw the piece of lumber up here for that I have for handle material. But let's see what happens when we bring this guy out. See how it looks compared to what we have turned already. So if I set that in there, well, I don't know, that does kind of look kind of cool. I think that's a keeper, and I will glue that in later. So I'm going to go with antler. I will clean this up a little bit, probably with a brass brush, just to get some of the funky stuck-on stuff off of there. And I'm going to call that done. I'll clean up a little bit of the jaw marks. That won't take much. And all the, yeah, I'm liking that. So that's good, because I had brought or cut another piece of antler to make the inner handle. And that means I can just turn this right now. What I did also with this antler, and I do it with bone, and well, antler is bone, of course. But the sponginess on the inside on the bigger pieces, sometimes it'll flake out. And so I flood that with a thin CA glue, and then I seal it. So that should remain hard all the way through turning this piece. Now I just need to figure out, yeah, I want to start there. So I'm going to cut a tenon on this dude. And I'm okay, I think. Let's see, if I get this straight here, right? More or less there. See how that looks. Looks good to me. I'll tighten her down some. I'm going to cut away most of this. Most of this is going to disappear. I just want that to be a tenon. that right there. Come on now. All right, here we go. Do I want to use? Yeah, I will. Before I do that, where'd I leave that dude going? Did you fall? No, you're right there. So this should be 1/4 of an inch. It's a little bit fat for 1/4 of an inch. That's all right. I'm going to go with this guy. Good quality wrench. I want a 5/16 tenon. An opening wrench is perfect for that. Gotta turn it till it fits inside the wrench. Check it against my 1/4 inch. How was it here? Not like that. Very, very close. Okay. So let's check it on this guy, because that's the size of tenon I will be cutting on the inner box. And I'm going to give myself a little bit, because this is the underside of the handle, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a curve to it. It doesn't need to be that long. Nice curve. Okay, I like that. Check it again. Here. That's good. So I'm going to cut the tenon off. You know what? I'm not going to cut it off yet, because I'm going to use that tenon to hold on to. just so I can round off this. I'm going to shorten it, of course. I don't want it that tall, but I'm going to round it off. Make sure that clears my tool rest. You know what? I want an angle on this. I'm still on center. Anchor, bevel, cut. That didn't work out so well. Broke the tenon. But it's antler, and that's what happens. So we'll turn another piece. But this is that spongy material I was telling you about in the center. Now that's all hard now because of CA glue, but because it's so spongy, it's not like a solid piece. So it broke off pretty easy, which I knew could happen. So we're going to turn another piece. I have several to choose from. Could use this one. Could use this one. You know what? I'll use this one. Yeah, I'll use this one. So that would stay straight, would it not? Yes. If I were to do that. Get it as close to center as I can. Just needs to have more or less a button to grip to be able to pull that drawer out. Looks pretty good. Tighten it down just a bit more. Not bad. Sorry about that. I have too many things on the lathe right now. I need to move some stuff. Okay, that stays there. I don't need the pencil. I don't need the toothbrush. I need my gouges, but I don't need I'll need a parting tool, but not right now. Smooth that out. Now I'll make it a pull handle with a little bit of a base. That's okay. That's a little bit oddly shaped because it's antler. I don't believe that anybody expects antler to be perfectly uniform in shape and all that. I mean, you know, there should be if you're collecting antlers, I guess the counting the tines and having equal sides, equal amount on both sides makes a difference. I don't collect antlers other than using them for artwork or turning. So I'm going to give this a little bit of acorn shape. Not nothing really obtuse. I can't have this sticking out too far above the drawer. For one, I've got to clear the inside of the lid. And two, it doesn't really need to be that large. It's just a small button to be able to pick up the drawer out of the box. All right, we're going to monkey with that shape. Monkey with it a little bit more. That looks pretty decent. And that should be short and small enough. So I'll take my detail gouge. It will let me get in there just a little bit tighter. Only cutting as fast as the tool will cut. Looking not bad. No bummer. I thought I would find it quickly. Of course, I had to lose that. Goodness. All right, sorry about that, folks. I dropped my pickup tool on the other side of the lathe. I think that looks pretty cool. I'm going to now cut the tenon from this side. I do not need these guys for that. I need this guy. Right. Tenon gauge. Oh, look at the shaving I got off the porting tool. That was cool. Now I'm going to cut that loose after I touch this bit up right here. There we go. There we go. So I'm sorely tempted to use a regular wood saw on this, but it is bone. I don't want to do that. Ruin a wood saw. And don't want to lose my button. All right, so there we have it. So a little quick touch up right on the top. Clean off that little bit the saw left behind. There we go. So that'll go inside the drawer. We chamfer the bottom side so it'll be easier to slide into its socket. And that's really all that's necessary to pull that out. So cool, we're set. So I will set these two aside. We're now ready to start working on the lid. Take this piece of antler out. Take this chuck off. And normally, or at least it used to be, I would have to take all these jaws off and replace them with different jaws, but I don't have to. All right, so I know this will fit with an expansion, and I'm just going to put my finish on. For those who have just joined, this is a polishing paste that I make myself out of beeswax, Mahoney's walnut oil, orange oil, some 400 grit rotten stone or diatomaceous earth, if you will, and some 600 grit pumice. Now, pumice and rotten stone break down very, very nicely. Especially when they're used as abrasives. And it is quite similar to, one moment. All right. So this is Yorkshire Grit. It is from Great Britain. It is a polishing paste. Also, the ingredients are listed here, and also you can find them online. This is a good polishing paste. The only problem I have with it is that they use petroleum in it. They use mineral oil, and I don't like using mineral oil. So I came up with my own recipe. It has some similarities. They use also rotten stone and pumice. Beeswax, lemon oil, mineral oil. I think it was just another way for the petroleum companies, the oil companies, to sell another product that they cracked out of crude. They call it mineral oil to give it some fancy schmancy name. And, in my opinion, lead people down the wrong path with the name. Named it mineral oil, like as if it came from minerals, and it doesn't. It is just a clear, thin viscosity petroleum product. And I myself feel like I already pay those guys way too much money. And they foist off all their cast-offs. I mean, Vaseline itself was a byproduct. Interesting history, but it's just a byproduct of the process of extracting and cracking crude. Yeah, it is a substance that will repel water or keep water in. But again, it's oil. I mean, of course, it's going to repel water. It's oil. Beeswax is a nice waterproofing agent. Tung oil that's a natural product. So anyway, I'm getting off my high horse here. I just don't agree with the use of all the petroleum products that they foist on us. And the lack of alternatives. Okay, so the lid's now done. All I have to do is figure out which direction I want this guy to sit. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know what I'm thinking. Let's see. The way the curve goes of the antler. That's pretty nice. But that, I think, is nicer. So I will set it on there that way. I will use a little bit of epoxy to seat that. So that's good to go. Now we're moving on to the inner drawer. Fortunately, it appears that I have a chuck already set up to go into expansion mode for this guy. I want that secure. I'm going to set this on level with the center because I'm going to scribe. That's got to come up. The diameter I'm looking for. This will be the diameter that fits inside the box. There we go. Which, and I'll show you that really quick. What I did was, the inner box needs to fit right on top of this lower shelf. So I took a measurement from this lip inside to this lip inside and set my calipers to just a touch wider. So I'm going to take this down to its proper size, and then we'll do the final fitting to get it inside. And I'm probably a little high here. I'm going to use my bowl gouge just to hog off the excess lumber. Can I move this over some? Well, let's find out. That's a good image. All right, cool. So anchor, got my bevel pointing in the direction of the cut that I want. Flutes open about 45-ish degrees. Start my cut and go for it. Now we do the fine tuning. This will be the bottom of the drawer. I can clearly see the line that I've scribed. I'm just doing test fits as I go to make sure I don't overshoot, because I don't want a sloppy inner drawer. Getting closer. I'm just using a series of very light pull cuts to shave off a little at a time. A little scrape there. Oh man, almost there. little too tight. Probably still a little too tight. Okay, we're sneaking up on it. You don't need this guy in the way. So let me explain. I mean, that's what the channel is for. I'm doing a pull cut across the surface of the lumber. And a pull cut is characterized by the handle is leading, is in front of the cutting edge. Whereas a push cut, where I'd be going this way, the cutting edge is leading the handle as the handle is behind it. Here, the handle is in front, and I'm pulling along. It's a very, very, very safe cut. In fact, how you start it is I got my anchor, and then I just kind of rotate the tool. I've got it anchored on my body down here. You can see that. And I'm just kind of holding it up here on what would like be a hump on a wooden tool. But it's just giving me micro turning adjustments. So as the piece is running, I have my anchor set. I know that I'm going to hit 45 degrees eventually, but I'm just rubbing the bevel. Nothing's happening, no cut. And then I want to rotate the tool. I'm not riding the bevel. I'm floating the bevel on the surface. Where I want to get is right up in here. That little bit of real estate right there to cut for me. So I'm just going to rotate the tool right into that. And it is a very safe cut. It's a pretty sheer and steep cut. Okay, I'm gonna do my test fit really quick. And hopefully that will just nice. So sanding it will take it down to the right diameter that I'm looking for, but that does fit in there. And it's not super tight, but it's a little too tight. I don't want it sticky. So I know I'm going to have to sand some of this off, but you can see the surface of this is actually quite clean. Sharp tools are a must when you're wood turning. And especially if you don't want to spend a lot of time sanding, which I don't. I will sand where necessary. I'm not afraid to do that. I have gone down to 40 grit sandpaper. I have done that because, well, I wasn't following the rules. And I wound up with a really rough surface. Plus, I was also using overly punky wood, and I just had a granulated, chunked out surface that I had to sand down to as smooth as I could get. And with spalted wood, that can be kind of dicey, especially with maple. Well, actually, any spalted wood, because at some point it's going to become too punky to work. And I've got a couple of pieces where I kind of traveled into the realm of perhaps it was a little punky to work. Now, you can get things like cactus juice, any kind of a resin that you can use a vacuum chamber or whatever to stabilize the wood. And that's kind of cool. But if you've ever turned cactus juice impregnated wood, you don't get shavings. All you get is dust. And it keeps the piece together. It's really cool stuff, but there's no shavings. It's all dust. So you need to have a dust collection system going when you're turning that. With this, though, I don't need to do that. This is a very good piece of lumber. All I need to do is get myself set up to where I can grip it from the bottom here. so that I can flip it around on the chuck and turn the inside out. So I'll give myself a little recess down in here, and that will allow me to do that. So I'm going to do another real quick test fit. It's a little bit better. You know what? I think I'm just going to start sanding from here, because that might take, well, no, I'm going to take a little bit more off, because I'm starting off at a higher grit of sandpaper. Hey, Fuzz. Pardon me for a moment while my roommate Peach asked me to let her in at the door. Yeah, hold on. There you go, buddy. So what I'm going to do is throw on my safety glasses, and I think I'll just go ahead and go with a shear scrape. So what is a shear scrape? A shear scrape, the handle is down low, so it's going to be way, way down. I'm going to move the camera up here a bit. So my hammer is going to be down. My handle, not my hammer, sorry. My handle is going to be down low. Where I'm cutting, let me grab my pencil. I set it off to the side. Where I'm going to be cutting, and I'll bring this up here, is the bottom wing. And I'm going to be cutting in basically the top third, maybe the top half of this, from the point to halfway point will be the most I will do a shear scrape on. I have unhandled bowl gouges that are getting close to the end of their useful life, but they still work great as shear scrapers. And I can actually throw my Steve Center tool rest up here and show you that, because, well, let me demonstrate here with shear scraping. With this particular style or design of tool rest, where you have this angle, basically this is what I'm going to say, that's a 45-degree angle. Most of them are somewhere in that area, I guess. So I need to register on the top rail here with my tool steel. That's my anchor. But then I have to get this tool handle down far enough to be able to make contact with, can we see that on camera, with the bottom wing, but the front half of that wing. So here I am. I cannot get very sheer, because the back of this is getting me off this rail. Now I'm on the bottom rail to get a really steep grind, a real steep angle. This tool rest is not really a good platform for that. And Steve Center came up with these tool rests that don't have, it's got a top rail, and I can get really, really close and really, really sheer with this. I can get right up on this thing, and I'm still making contact with this top rail with the tool steel, but I can get really my handle way, way down. And that's why I like using these Steve Center tool rests for this stuff. And I believe Mike Mahoney actually mentions this as well. This is a Steve Center finial rest. It's meant just to give you, just the whole finial thing. But I use it for a lot of things, because it's only got basically one wing, as opposed to this. This has two wings. This has only got one wing on one side. That's 6 inches. And I can get that into tighter spots. I can get this into tighter spots than I can this. So I use this for way more than just finials. It's an excellent, excellent piece of equipment. And I'm all about tools not being unitaskers unless they have that specific design and they are perfect. Say a church key, that's a unitasker. It's a pop topper, man, but it's perfect. It'll take any can that needs to have that triangular open punched into, and it'll take bottle caps off. But so it's a unitasker, but it is the perfect tool for that. Bowl gouge, not a unitasker. It is for bowls, but you can do the four basic cuts: push, pull, scrape, shear scrape, And you can do it on a variety of angles. I can also use this tool like a skew. I can use this like a spindle gouge in some cases, but I can do the spindle gouge and use it as a bowl gouge in some cases, but only on very small pieces because, using a spindle gouge just got such a steep angle. It's really, really catchy. So I got my handle down, right? I'm registered on this top rail. Now I'm making sure that this top wing is not going to contact. This top part of the wing is not going to contact the lumber at all, just the bottom. What that does is it gives me a little bit of gap in between this and the wood to look down. And I want to look right down in there and make sure that I'm only cutting on the front half of the tool. So I kind of stand over it. If my fat head gets in the way, I apologize. And with the shear scrape, you can go back and forth. And let me pull this off. These are, I don't know that this camera can pick these up, but these little guys are shavings. I have a very, very sharp tool, and that's a shaving. That's what I'm pulling off. The lumber is little shavings like that. So you're seeing some of it is dust clearly, but most of it is shavings. And that's what a shear scrape, how the shear scrape pulls the material off. And that's what I want to see because it cleans up the surface even more. It's such a sheer cut and it gives me such a nice shaving, and they're very, very, very small because this is just finesse that I can eliminate a lot of the sanding that I may have to do. So I'm looking right down in this gap. The gap is between the lumber and this upper wing, so I can see right down inside to here. Now this is probably all I'm going to want to take off. I'm going to round this bottom end corner a little bit, just like I would with a spindle gouge. Handle down, lift to the handle. It's rounded now, or I could have done it this way. I could have scraped it in. I could have used a spindle gouge for this instead of a bowl gouge. I could have used a skew, lay it flat and scrape it in. Any tool, doesn't matter. Could use just a regular scraper and done that. Doesn't matter. That's not the point. Isn't that you got to have this tool and that right tool and whatever. It's how you use the tools you use, and that's what I want to share with people. There are various ways to use these tools in a safe and efficient manner to do a wide variety of cuts. A bowl gouge will take you very, very far. Not for hollowing per se, not the greatest for hollowing, but for everything on the outside of a form that you don't need to be super tiny, this is a great tool. I'll continue to talk about that as we go, depending on what tool I'm using. So I'm just going to do a finish sanding. I'm going to do a final fit checker. Oh yeah, I'm liking that. It'll sit right where I want it. All right, so just a little bit of a finish sanding here. My shear scrape left me a beautiful, beautiful finish on the wood already. I'm going to hit that with 220. That's all I need to do. I could probably start at 320, but I'm only going to 220. It's the inside. And my polishing paste makes up that difference. This is also a very, very hard lumber, honey locust. So it takes a sanding very, very well. Pardon me while I blow off my lathe and my computer. So I can achieve those cuts much nicer on a denser hardwood. And this is a Grex orbital sander. Again, I do not get kickbacks or payments or anything for promoting anything, although I'm open to the possibility. If Grex or Hunter Tools, Thompson Tools, or or anybody that I talk about the tools I use would like to offer me a sponsorship, that would be awesome. This is an air tool. However, I learned that this also can be a friction sander, just like, actually, I think I have one. I bought one once. Let me see if I can dig it out. Yes, I can. All right, so this is a friction sander, no power. The pad goes on here, and then your sandpaper goes on there, and the spinning of the lumber, or whatever it is you're turning, causes the sandpaper to spin, but also clean off and do some sand on your surface. I don't use this. I should probably find a home for it in somebody else's shop, because I learned that a Grex will do the same thing. I'm not going to hook air to this. I'm just going to run that sandpaper up there, and you'll see what happens. So I can use it just like a friction sander. I don't have to hook up my air. And that's the surface I get. So I'm going to hit it again. So I found that out, actually, because I was in a spot where I needed to do some sanding, and I didn't have any access to an air compressor. So there you have it. You can use it as a friction sander if necessary. I was going to clean up the bottom on this, but actually, I'm going to wind up cleaning it up. But I need to make a little bit of an indentation to give myself something to expand into, which means I will most likely need to change the jaws on this guy. Yep. Although, well, I don't want it to. I'm going to use my Vic Mark chuck to expand into that, because I don't need, what I need is just a small little dovetail. Where am I? Oh, well, I'll show you on this guy. So this chuck, the jaws are straight. It's got some teeth on there, and that's what I'm gripping with on the inside of this. The teeth on the outside. There's teeth on the inside of this too, to grip onto it or expand into it. However, with this chuck, I need at least 2 of those teeth, and I don't feel comfortable unless I've got at least 2. If I can get 3 in there, I want all those teeth making contact with the lumber, which means that I've got to cut that far. And what is that, 3/16? I got to cut that far into the bottom of this. I'm going to lose that space. It's not such a huge deal, but with the Vic Mark chuck, it's a dovetail. So all I have to do is go in maybe 1/8 of an inch. As long as I've got that dovetail in there, that'll get into the wood and hold on to it very securely. And so I don't need to take off as much of the material, and I can save more of the material into the piece. So I'm going to go ahead and swap jaws really fast before I get started on this guy. Partially because I do want to set my calipers to give me a baseline to cut to. And another thing I really like about Vic Mark chucks. What can we talk about Vic Mark chucks? Dude, first of all, the Allen screws that they use are actually sizable, and they're hefty. They're not tiny little guys like this. So they're very easy to tighten and take out without stripping. They also can I read that? I don't know. I can read that. 11, what? 4 11/16. I don't know. Anyway, so the Allen screws are very strong. The material that's used in it is also very hefty and very, very solid. I really, really like these chucks. Okay, that was number 2. So I'm going to take number 2 over here. And they also handily stamp in the number on the slider here. I don't see that very often in chucks. So that is another visual guide to help you get the jaws, the right jaws on the right slider. And hey, anybody at VicMark, if you would like to discuss a sponsorship thing, I like using your equipment. I would love to have a VicMark lathe one of these days, preferably a 300, but I'll get there someday. But I think that the VicMark brand is extremely well made. Comes from Australia. I believe it's even a family business, if I remember correctly, but just phenomenal stuff. I recommend it. It is a little bit spendy, but you know what? I don't need to buy. I'm not going to need to replace this chuck just because it broke. I'm going to have to put some serious torque on this bad boy to break it, and I'm not doing that with this lathe. It won't happen. Okay. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I know I'm going to expand into my cavity that I'm going to turn. So what I want to do is open up the jaws on this guy a little bit. Give myself an idea of where I want that cavity to reside. That should give me enough to play with, but I'm going to close it a little bit more. And then I'm going to set my calipers to the outside of the opposite jaws. And I'm just going to get close because even if I go a little bit under, so much the better. There we go. I'm not going to use this guy for this. I could. And I think I'm already set on center with this one, so it's just, I don't have to do anything. Nope, I'm actually a little bit low. Let's take a look at that. I'm still a little bit low. So I was not on center with this, but that's all right. Now we are. Make sure my tailstock is secure. And here we go. All right, so I think that'll be plenty good enough. I'm only touching this point to it. If I touch this point to the wood real hard, it's going to try to flip everything over and rip it out of my hand. I'm only catching it on the downhill side of the turn. That was a catch because I hit this right into the point. So I'm going this on the downhill side of the turn, and then I'm just kind of gauging with the other point there. I'm not actually touching. I'm just gauging to make sure it would meet that line, and it will. That way I don't get the tool ripped out of my hand. Let's see what kind of damage I did to this piece of lumber. Nothing on the outside. There it is right there. Nope, that wasn't it. Where are you, dude? There it is right there. So I got a little bit of a catch right there, but that's all right. I'm going to wind up cleaning that up anyway because I got to carve into this. So let's move the chuck out of the way for a few minutes. I got to get my tool rest set again for my bowl gouge. You know, let's just take this guy all the way out and get the sawdust out of the threads. Too high. It's a little too low. There we go. That should be good. I want to make sure that all of my components are locked down. Let's move you over here. Anchor, my bevel is pointing in the direction that I want to go. This right here is my bevel. So it's going in the direction I want it to go. I'm just going to clean up the bottom. Pardon me for a second. I'm still just a tad low. Okay. Still low. This is crazy. What am I doing with myself? Oh, I went the other way. I dropped it even further. That's my bad. Okay, well, that's not right there. It turns in not the incorrect direction. Loose nut behind the nut. There we go. That's the cut I'm after. So I'm going to mark this line while I can still see it. And let me move the camera. Let me show you this because I don't know if you can see that. Let me turn this light off. Does that help? Move the light back. So this is my line right here. So that gives me 3/8, almost half an inch there. Actually, I think that is half an inch. Yep, half an inch between where the chuck is going to grab and expand into and the outer surface of the form that I'm doing here. That gives me lots of lumber to push against. I want to have as much as I can. I don't want a really, really, really thin wall here because if I expand too far, it's going to crack all that open. So I'm leaving myself a good bit of meat here to hold that chuck. In a second, I'm going to bring out the skew, but I'm just going to do a push cut from the other side of the lathe. I know it looks like I'm on this side of the lathe. I am, but it's still a push cut because the cutting, oh, that I didn't even change the camera. Sorry, one sec. Let me get this back. Sorry about that, folks. I'm off and running at the mouth here. How's that? Is that a good? Let's move it over. So if you visit my coffee channel, you'll see that I have some goals set for people who wish to support my channel and donate. Two of the goals I have set is to get another camera. How did that get all wonky? Okay. So that I can switch between views, but also a camera that has a focus and can zoom. This camera does not do that. It's just a single aperture camera or whatever they call that. So if I appreciate your support, if you choose to support my channel, thank you very much. It will help make this channel, continue to make this channel a better channel. So I would be on the other side of the lathe now. The handle is back that way. The cutting head is, or the cutting edge is in front of the handle. So this is a push cut. I'm just pulling it toward me instead of standing on the other side of the lathe. Going right up to my line. I'm going to flatten out the bottom. And I'm going to gauge that with a card because I really do want a fairly flat bottom. And when I say card, I'm just mean a plastic, just some straight edge and small to fit in there. And what I'm looking for, if I can get the light behind it, I'm looking for any light that comes in between the edge of the card and the edge of the wood. So here I can see at the very edge, and I don't know that you can see this on camera, but at the very edge I've got, I don't know, maybe a 64th of a gap between the bottom of the card and a 1/2 inch of the outside of the bottom here. So I want to flatten that out. I'm going to grab my skew and I'm going to use it as a negative rake scraper. In fact, I have it set up as a negative rake scraper, one of my skews. This is a Thompson skew, and I got this idea from Stuart Batty. As you can see, the grind on this is not the same on both sides. I've turned this into, yeah, there we go. I've turned this into a negative rake scraper. It's still skew material, but I made, well, you can see what I'm talking about. I've turned it into a negative rake scraper. So I got to bring this up some to make sure that I'm cutting on at the right point with this. And then I'm going to dress up my edge for this guy and get my burr fixed. Because I want a burr on this tool. Where'd you go? There you are. I want a burr on this upper edge, and it's going to curl up here. And that's what I want to contact the wood. I don't want to have to contact the whole edge of this skew, just that burr that's up there. So I'm going to dress this really quick with a fine diamond card just to clean up the edge. And then I'm going to draw a burnishing tool across the front of this guy to bring that burr up. You can do this on the grinder as well, but I don't feel the need right now. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Groovy. So I'm going to grab my burnishing tool really quick. And I just have a little piece of burnishing steel tucked into a piece of cherry burl, actually, that I had. Cherry's kind of cool. Anyway, so here I'm going to run my burnishing tool across this edge, but I'm going to tilt it up just a bit. Not much, 5 degrees, maybe something like that, just to peel or push that burr up over the edge of the top of this tool. So that's parallel or perpendicular. I want to go just a little bit past. And this is a combination of things I learned from Stuart Batty and Eric Lofstrom. So this is a combination of both their techniques. Stuart Batty normally just throw this, from my observations, normally just throws this up on the grinder wheel and throws a burr up on there really quick, and then gets back to doing what he's doing. Eric Lofstrom will polish this up and then put it on the grinder, polish that up, and then draw this burr. So it's basically half a dozen of one and half a dozen of the others. However you want to accomplish that goal. So that looks good to me. Why is that light not pointing there? Probably because I knocked my head into it. All right. So I just need to contact that burr. Really not putting much force into it. Give me a pretty smooth surface. And let's see if I got that. Almost. It's almost done. You can see the very fine shavings that I'm pulling off with that burr. This skew just happens to be a thicker, this is a Thompson skew, it's just a thicker material. Let me move to my standard skew, which I have a bit of a curved edge because I kind of like the way it cuts that way. Do the same thing, use it as a negative rake scraper and work my way back and forth. These are even finer shavings, but I've got a very, very, very small burr on them. I mean, I got no burr on this at all. This has been honed. But very, very, very fine shavings. That got it. Okay, so I'm done there. So you can use a skew as a negative rake scraper. It's not a unitasker. Skew is an awesome tool, man. It is an amazing tool for spindle turning. I've done some other things with it too, but it also is great for parting. There's a lot of functionality in a skew. It does have a learning curve to it. There's no doubt. And it can be grabby if you're putting it in the wrong direction and doing crazy things with it. But if you follow the rules that are required for the skew, as well as following the grain, those rules, the grain orientation and all that, you won't have any problem. It's just another tool that takes practice. So I'm going to grab my 1/4-inch skew. And I'm going to put just a little bit of that dovetail in there right here, so that my Vic Mark chuck can get right into that alcove. And here, even with this, I'm getting very, very, very fine shavings. This is a standard skew grind, but it's honed. So here I can see now that I've got a bit of a dovetail in there. That's perfect. I don't need very much. Basically, we're fat 1/16 of an inch is all I'm gripping onto, but that's all I need to do with this piece. So I want to clean up the tool marks that got left behind by this guy. And hey, just for fun, let's measure that. So 3/32, a fat 1/16 is only how far I went on it. I didn't go the full 1/8, but that's still enough with this meat, this 1/2 inch of lumber on the outside of that. That's enough to hold on to this. It's not it's a shallow piece. I'm going to cut it even shorter because it needs to fit in the box properly. And then I'm just going to dish it out, hollow it out. So that is perfect for where I need to be right now. So I can put this stuff away. Let's get you back in there. Clear up the clutter a bit. Let's get rid of my shear scraper. I don't need that right now. Okay. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to throw some sandpaper on that. Slow my lathe down. Just use it as a friction sander. You know what? I'm going to throw some little air on it. All right, I'm going to mute the audio while I throw a little air on this guy. Bear with me, please. Did that work? It didn't seem to work. Let's try it again. Why is that not working? Perhaps. That work? Yes. Okay, so audio's back. So since I actually have to use air on this tool, I'm going to add my air tool oil. 2 drops every time. My handle down, and I brought out the mask. Oh yeah, as you can see, it is an RZ mask. This is the, I think they're well, it should say right here. Yeah, F1. So I use a F1 filter. It's a standard filter with activated carbon also. So it does get some smells out of that you don't have to smell, but not a lot. But it does get some finer particulate matter. So these are nice masks. Of course, you got to have these. Now I'm going to mute you or mute the audio just for a sec. When I turn this on, the compressor is also going to kick on. Okay, the compressor is quit. Now I can finish this outside because I'm done all the cutting I need to do other than cutting it a little bit shorter. I really, really like the way that the combination of Mahoney's oil and the orange oil that I purchased from Florida, brings a glow to this honey locust that's just awesome. Darn it. Keep a grip on the things that you're applying to your lumber so they don't get taken out of your hands. But also, you don't want to wear gloves and all that stuff because if your glove gets caught by the lumber, it's going to pull you in. And that's not something that I understand is very fun. All right, let me go ahead and complete this. Now I want to make sure that I'm pulling off any excess. I got no color on the towel. A little bit there. And that's done. Okay. Wrong key. So that is the bottom. Now I'm going to swap my chuck to my Vic mark. Which is down here, turns out. I'm covered in shavings. I think I drip shavings even on days I don't turn. I seem to have shavings fall off of me, so I must be a wood turner. Okay, you know, I'm going to grab a jaw. Let me grab a jaw and show you really quick. So I'm probably being like over-explanatory, but you know what? Some turners don't have much experience. So if you know about this, that's great. If you don't know about this, this one won't fit in as well because it's very wide. But if you look in there, you can see how that dovetail wants to tuck in. So these smaller jaws will all tuck in all the way around inside that dovetail, and that will give me the grip that I have in expansion, and the meat of this ring here will give me enough counter force that this won't split apart and open up. And just like a drill press, I've got two places to tighten my jaws, so I'm going to use both. I'm just going hand tight a little bit at a time. I don't need to get crazy. I want it secure, but I don't need to try to blow the thing apart. Okay, test fit. will tell me that I probably have about 1/4 of an inch to take off. Actually, a little bit more than that, 3/8 of an inch to take off, so that the top of the drawer meets that top ledge. So I just need to take off some off the top here. Make sure that I am set at the right height for my bowl gouge that I'm going to use to hog this off with. Too high. That'll do. And while I'm at it, I'm going to scoop some of this out too. So doing double duty, let me speed up my lathe. Yep, that works. So it's just thumb pressure. That's all I got my anchor right there. You can't see it off camera, but I got my anchor right here on my body. My hand is set. This is my tiller hand, so I can rotate, I can move it out, but most of the time I just rotate because I want the anchor. I want the anchor on the tool rest. So my tiller hand can rotate the tool and adjust my flute direction without leaving my anchor spot. And because I'm anchored there and anchored on the tool rest, all that is necessary is just enough pressure to keep this down against the tool rest. One finger is all it will take. I'm just resting my finger on this, and I'm moving my whole body slightly forward to make the cut. I'm not pushing with this finger. I'm just holding the tool down. That's all it takes. Turning is finesse. If you are beating yourself up, you're working at it way too hard. I'm going to leave that little bit of a nipple there because it's not ever going to make contact. I just want to see. I'm going to need to take off a little bit more. I will get to this later. Anchor, anchor. My bevel is pointing in the direction that I want to cut. Anchor, bevel. Now I present the tool till I get the cut started right there. I'm ready to go now. In fact, this is what I mean by anchor, bevel, cut. I'm not touching the tool. It's more or less self-feeding. Once I get it started in the direction I want it to go, it's self-feeding. It's finesse. This takes practice. I don't think, I'm not saying you should just jump right in to do this. You got to learn how to use the tools first. But this is finesse. It's a lovely way to make wooden shapes. I think it's fantastic. You just have to put in the practice to get the muscle memory and the tool control down. And that is perfect. So now all I got to do is dish this out. I can use the bowl gouge again, and I will. So you see that this is already finished. I don't have to mess with that, except for I don't want a super sharp edge here. So I'm just going to do a scrape just to knock that sharp edge off so it doesn't cut anybody. So I can run my thumb on it. It's not sharp. Now I'm not going to take big, huge chunks. I'm not going to hog this off like nuts because I've got an expansion joint or an expansion chuck going on in here. Yes, it will hold it, but if I start really pouring the coals of this, it could still pop off. So I don't need to do that anyway. I mean, this is a very shallow piece. I can take my time, and I always want to try to take my time anyway and only go as fast as the tool can cut. But I don't need to hog off a ton. So I had to move the box off the lathe so that my handle swing wouldn't hit it. Now I'm hogging off a lot. I don't need to. I'm pulling back a little bit. See the shavings coming off. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm always keeping aware that I've got basically about 3/16 of an inch in there that's undercut, right? I'm going to call it, well, it's not 3/16 of an inch. I'm sorry, it's 3/32 of an inch. So I'm going to call it 3/16, and that's going to be my, well, no, I'm going to call it a quarter, and that's going to be my bottom. So what that does is leave me a little bit over 1/8 of an inch in the bottom. I might even go as far as 5/16, but I think I'm going to stick with a 1/4 inch overall, which means that I want to measure my wall thickness on the outside to be the same as the thickness of the bottom overall. So that means my wall thickness here is going to be 1/4 of an inch, and there it is. So I know that that's my wall thickness now, and I'm going to hollow down in there until I get to 1 inch and 3/16 minus 1/4. So we'll call it 15/16, maybe even 14 3/4. But I think we'll go with 15. We'll see how that works out. Hey now. So that was a bit of a skate. And that was a catch. And so this is what happens when you get a catch like that. As you can see, the expansion just tore all that apart. So that was a catch, and now I've got to create another insert for this piece. So that means that I'm going to call this a night. I set the tool. You can actually see. Here we go. This is where the catch happened, right here next to this tenon. And I came at it at a too steep of an angle. And that's why I got a catch. So I hit this point, dug that point in accidentally, and got that catch and blew this piece apart. Fortunately, it was an expansion mode, and so it didn't squirt out of the chuck. It broke off and fell out. But it was very, very well held in there, clearly. These pieces just snapped right off. And here they are. Looks like there's 3. There might be more. I'll have to check. And I'm not going to attempt to even glue this together. This was a catch, and this piece is done. It did have some cracks in there, but most of them were almost turned out. But I just created a new one right there. So that's a problem that is resolved by creating a new insert. And that is not a problem. So there we have it. It was a mistake, but it's a mistake that I have learned from now. I know that I really have to pay attention to that point of the tool. I know that as a turner, I'm not going to learn anything. I want to learn from those mistakes. So this will not be repeated again. But here is the aftermath. This is what it looks like. Nobody was hurt. But this can be disastrous when you get a catch. Clearly, it's disastrous for the piece. So I'm not going to glue this up together. That's just a waste of my time. I will turn a new insert, and we will show that probably tomorrow night. I will probably stream tomorrow night. Actually, I'm planning on streaming now Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 8 to 11. Right now it's set for Tuesdays, but I'll be back tomorrow night. We'll turn a new insert. I will find the lumber that I need. I think I just did, in fact. No, not this piece. Although that is, no, that's not honey locust either. That's also maple. This is just a backup block that I have on a faceplate. So when I need to create a hollow to make a friction drive, I can use this piece of lumber. I don't care that it's all cracked up and messed up, because every time I turn a new piece, I turn a new face to sit in whatever I need to sit in there with a piece of leather and rubber shelf grid that will give me my friction drive from the tailstock. But I will get the lumber I need prepared for tomorrow, and we'll go from there. So don't let your mistakes stop you. You are going to make a mistake every now and then. Clearly, I did, and I've been turning for about 7 years. I just lost a little bit of my focus. And sometimes that can happen when you're explaining every step and going through all these things. So what I should have done actually is remove my tool from the lumber while I was speaking at that point, because I wasn't needing to explain the cut or anything and show that. I should have just pulled that out and showed you what I was doing, and I would have avoided that catch completely. All right, cool, groovy. Gotta love it. So what we do have, though, which is awesome, where's all my pieces? Here we are. What we do have, let's move the tailstock out of the way, is we have a finished box. Let me line up the grain, because I think that looks phenomenal. You can see the grain lines up most of the way around. It's not going to be perfect, because this was separated from this by probably about that far. What is that, 5/8 of an inch, almost 3/4. So when I parted that off, this is what I got. But the grain pattern, still follows through the entire piece. So we have a finished box, and I will be attaching the handle this evening. So we will have the finished box. We will just need to get the insert drawer to go inside. So thank you very much for joining me this evening. I hope that you might have learned something, had some fun. I know I enjoy watching people turning, because I just like watching the shavings fly, but it gets me too to a point sometimes where I can only watch it for so long before I've got to go and turn something myself. But that's what I hope that that I hope is one of the end results of hanging out with me on this channel. That it will give you the impetus to want to go try something, to want to go turn, maybe even doing something like what I'm doing. I know that it's important to me anyway, that if I'm using a technique that somebody else taught me, that I say who that was and where I learned it. So I would hope that you had learned something here, and please feel free to share my name. This is where I learned it from. I would appreciate that very much. So we have a finished box. We just need to do, like I said, the internal drawer. Not a problem. We'll start that tomorrow night. And thank you again, like I said, for joining me this evening. Hope you had some fun. Hope you to see you back And I hope to see some more, maybe some questions or some comments in the chat, something in there to help show your support from our channel. And I hope you enjoy your evening, and I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.